Commission, all the top officials, and NSA. So we kind of changed policy groups from the neocons and the Heritage Foundation, the Hoover Institute, to the Trilateral Commission, which are considered more the corporate liberal side of the American elite. But they still all know each other. They all go to the same places to eat. They belong to the same country clubs, and they talk to each other on a regular basis. So our foreign policy hasn't changed. Obama gets in, and now there's more trilateralists inside the State Department. Does that make major changes? No, it's not. Obama was the first president ever in American history to keep the same Secretary of Defense, the same Secretary of War, from an opposing party in power. Robert Gates was Bush's appointee after Rumsfeld became too unpopular to keep. Robert Gates was straight out of SAIC. He is on the board of directors of Scientific Applications International, which is the 5th largest defense contractor in the United States. Besides being former CIA, former military advisor, I mean, Gates had been around for a long time and proven his loyalty. Who does Obama put in as deputy director of Department of Defense? A guy named William Lynn. William Lynn was the #1 public relations person, vice president for Raytheon Corporation, the 6th largest defense contractor in the United States, and very closely tied into Kerry and Massachusetts, because that's where they're based. Kerry has major investments in the Raytheon Corporation. So there's this interlock. In fact, 1 out of 4 people in Congress is invested in a major defense contractor. That is, over $200 million is invested on public disclosure. It's one of our stories this year, from people in Congress who, when they vote for expanded defense budgets, know that their stocking values are going to go up and that their dividends are going to go up. In fact, it's Lockheed Martin have referencing 400% increase in their stock values since the 9/11 war started. So this is profit-making. War is profitable, and it continues to be, and it's empire building, and we don't get that story. That's not part of what we're being told. So we get the hyper-reality of what's happening. We don't get to know the facts or the realities of what's really happening. So I've been talking for a half an hour, so maybe we should just open this up to questions and have some conversation. I mean, Mickey and I have told you a lot, so let's.
There's a mic over here, so if people want to, you can do it one of 2 ways. Last time I was the one running around with the microphone. I obviously can't do that right now. So if somebody wants to run around the room with a microphone, that would be great. That way the camera can pick it up.
I'll do it.
Yeah, Nick, please do. And you want to ask the first question? Did you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so why don't you ask the first question, then why don't you take that out of there and then run around the room and try to mix up the questions as much as possible. You can
Phil
be
Donahue. Actually, I just wanted to know, with the project expanding and the mass base that you guys are building, how has the level of consciousness raised, or do you see anything getting better with all this controversial stuff that you're putting on your webpage and your book and just reporting to your students in the world?
Well, it's only 1/3 of the people in the United States actually believe what the corporate media says today, which is a significant decrease. I think there's a real distrust of corporate media. A Pew poll came out just this last year that clearly, that people just don't trust corporate media. So we're making some progress. We're seeing some things happen. Hugo Chavez on national television the day before yesterday in Venezuela talked about Project Censored in our book, which was like amazing to us. Yeah, that was really fun. Partly because we have a chapter in there about how he has been caricatured in a hyper-real way as this big evil person when he's been democratically elected by 2/3 of the people in this country multiple times. And but you don't get that image of him here in the U.S. So he's been really negatively caricatured and demonized. And that's kind of a hyper-real circumstance. So we have our chapter 9s about that. But we were, I was just in Quito last week in Ecuador, and there's a Japal there, which is the Journalism Institute, wants to start a Project Censored in Ecuador. And I met with the Journalists Association, and they're kind of at a difficult place because the corporate media is just like ours, and very entertainment, very much lying, hates the Korea government. The Korea government's response is to create their own newspapers and spend money, doing that. So we don't need that either, because that's a very bunch of propaganda. So they're kind of stuck in the middle, and they want to do more independent analysis and figure out ways to do it. So, they're going to try to institute a Project Censored there. We're seeing interest in this, and I believe that people want to do this, and it's engaging colleges and universities and professors around the world to take a look at independent media and try to validate it. And so that's probably our agenda for the next 3 years.
And just to add briefly to what Peter said, the interesting thing about the Pew study too, by the way, is that even though it still shows over 70% of people getting information from the corporate media, it then shows this other number of how roughly only 30% believe what's going on. I mean, so what do you do with that? In other words, people are acting out of habit. People don't maybe know where else to go. Maybe they've lost interest. Maybe they're in the rut of the so-called reality, hyper-real viewing, and so forth. I mean, it's something that we should definitely be talking about. But naturally, since most people are still reliant on corporate media to get their information, and corporate media doesn't address their own problem this way, most people aren't really invited into a discussion about media literacy, or how the lack of media literacy in this country has really seriously deteriorated our level of discourse.